when I'm working with service providers, they get to think that I've got a lot of money because I make sure that my schedule aligns with my money's availability. And I'm not going to start a project without planning the funds and the schedule. And this gives me an upper hand whereby now the festive is approaching. I have got the highest retention that I can even bet on to say, you know what, I can call the service provider that I've worked with before. They will actually prioritize my type of task or my type of a job that I need them for. Imagine when you are in a phone call and while you are busy engaged in a phone call, the person on the other end of the phone says, uh, hang up from your side, there's a call coming. And unless your subconscious doesn't detect anything about it, if it does, you will feel a bit of less of a priority. You will have to question yourself, is this not a call that we're having? What do you mean the call is coming? And the answer to that is that they are finding that the call that is incoming is of higher importance to them than yours. Sorry to break the bad news, but this is the typical situation that we want to address today, whereby you don't get to be put in that situation by your supplier and by your service provider at any time that you need them. And for you to maintain that, whereby they can drop any other client and say, there's a call coming when it's you. You need certain steps to work on. You need certain engagement to actually master. And these are not rocket science type of steps. And I'm going to walk you through these steps in this video so that by the end of this video, you actually get to carry out the value and understand the concepts and things that you need to work on to make sure that your retention rate on maintaining the relationship with the suppliers and our contractors is actually higher. Many organizations will be closing, and you may find that in your space of needs, you will still need a supplier or contractor to work with you. And if that's not the case in your commercial side, you may find that that's actually the case in the domestic scale. You now need certain service provider to actually help you out with some of the plans that you carried out. You save the money throughout the year to say, okay, I'm gonna do this particular project. When I get my bonuses, when I get to holidays for the festive, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. And this is the time whereby a lot of suppliers are also getting demands. So they've got spoil of choices to who they can serve. And that is when you find that your retention rate is actually lower and you're becoming more rejected, and seems like everybody who can give you the quality work is actually not available for you. By the way, I'm Tondani Mathada, PMP-Certified Project Manager. Actually repost this video or also to put a share and like on this particular video so that also others can also be aware going into this festive season where there's a lot of need around this particular subject. Now, when you're building a contractor relationship and prioritizing your home, because I will start facing from the domestic side to the commercial side. So what you normally need to make sure of is that this a communication platform whereby you actually get to engage well with your contractor or supplier, if you're the one that is actually carrying out that engagement, um, in case that you don't have a project manager appointed like myself to actually help you with that. So you need to establish the strong relationship, which is the core objective, to make sure that that particular supplier will be able to be available for your needs. For example, you got a plumber that you need upon a breakdown. You know that when you need a plumber, it's not something that is a very nice situation. It's mostly out of desperation and out of agency. So you need to have that particular relationship whereby whosoever that there is can be able to drop everything else and say, you know what, I need to prioritize my client here because of the kind of relationship that I have with that particular person. What you need to put in mind in managing that relationship is understanding that most of the suppliers and contractors in their own space, they're running a business. You need to understand that, and it's very easy to neglect that. Why I'm saying that is because a lot of relationship breaks down when it comes to cash flow dependencies. When the supplier or a contractor now has to come and claim the money as if they're claiming the commonly known South African fund, which is rough. They have to do back and forth claim as if they need to also involve a third party, which is a lawyer, just to get their money paid. Do you think that particular person will actually come to you in times of crisis or in times of need and actually try to assist you? Let's be fair. In the domestic scale, people are not looking into the experience or getting into the market to say, you know what, I'm starting small. I want to get to say, I've worked with Tondani, I've want to say I've worked with Johannes. That there's no such type of a repetition that is more important about that. If you're not a good client to work for, people will just go to the most preferred one or the better one. Unlike in the commercial scale, whereby people sometimes they get to tolerate some of the things because they want a name to be part of their portfolio to say, I've worked with this particular big company, and it helps them going forward to build a portfolio. And by so doing, you need to also make sure that you build the trust. If building the trust, it comes up with the communication and committing to the communication. You may align a lot of things, but you need to make sure that you are aware of your alignments. And there's no better way to ensure that you are aware of your alignments or your communication than committing to the particular agreements that you had initially with the service provider. Delayed payments, guys, delayed payments are a big part in crumbling that relationship, especially in the domestic scale. I've seen a lot that you get to see people losing that relationship because of such nature of payments that are being delayed. So the key component that I actually advise is this part: align your project schedules with the payment availability. I've actually exercised this several times and got to the point whereby I give transparency to my contractors to say, guys, I will not have the funds available by the third week if you're saying you're going to be finished. My funds availability or the client's funds availability will be on the fourth week. So then, especially when it's the first time working with a particular service provider, I would opt for that. Let's delay the start by a week so that by the time you're done, when you're seeing tools down, I'm also encouraging my client to say, tools is down, all the quality checks are done, now is the money to go in. It's the time for the money to go in and pay the service provider about the agreement, all the agreements that has been done initially. This is the time to pay. And a lot of times, the good thing is that you find that a lot of work in the domestic space that I've worked with, a lot of times it's mostly construction work, and a lot of that comes with phases. So they will say, for example, on the first phase, which they can say it's a foundation, they will need 30% payment. Coming into the second phase, to the window level, 40%, and probably the closing phase again 40%. I'm just giving the different scenarios. So these are the milestones payment that are arranged. But a lot of times people agree that I've seen when I'm being called now to assist is because people agreed to the milestones to say we're gonna do 30%, 40%, and 40%. But the agreement there, the client didn't get to understand the service provider when, after how long are you gonna get to the stage whereby you've completed phase one. That is very crucial. And after you say that you're gonna be done with phase one, you now again need to go into the details, because now they said, okay, we're gonna be done with phase one after 4 weeks. Now you must go again to the calendar to say, if we're agreeing to start tomorrow, when is this fourth week gonna be? By estimate. And then you get to see that, okay, the fourth week is gonna be, this is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. That means that around the 21st, that project is gonna be complete in terms of phase one. Now you need to look into the part whereby, is your funds going to be available by the 21st? Now, some of the clients, you get to find that they've got the money saved into the 32 days notice. Some of them, they're waiting for some stock file that is going to play on the certain date, or the salary per se. And now you need to align. I'm not going to have the money on the 21st. Then when you disclose that to me, I get to share with the uh, service provider, because I will draw this schedule for you as a client, and you can get to have the values that you are working with. And then I go to the service provider, especially on the phase one. People are reluctant to just trust, so they will want to finish when the money is available. Then I say, let's delay the start by a week. So that means that instead of starting on the 23rd, we're going to start on the 30th. Then we know that our fourth week is going to fall around the 28th. And we know that confidently our money is going to be out by the 23rd. So that means that by the 28th, there's enough time that that money will be available. And should they even finish earlier than 28th, the probability of them finishing after the 23rd is higher. So that means that the money will be available. And when it comes to phase twos and three, because they've seen how the transparency worked, they're likely to actually agree to say, okay, I can even continue working with you and making sure that you are sorted, and you'll give me the money after 7 days or so. Is that by not committing to the dates that you gave the contractor or a supplier, you're actually impacting their business negatively, because now they've got cash flow issues. If they've got workers, they've promised that they're going to be paid after phase one, and now the money didn't come through. Now it becomes again a tricky situation because the workers might not turn up to work the next day, contingency levels, and then you get to have compromised relationships that actually leads to some of the compromise in the quality. And beyond that, you get to find that there's a bit of let's do what is on this scope than to actually advising you as a client to say, you know what, I see in your plan here, you've got a trench that is supposed to come here. But I see that according to your landscape, the flow of this water is not going to come to this trench, particularly in the way that it's intended. How about I change the inclination based on whatsoever the factors may be? So these are some of the benefits that you get when you have that working relationship, and these are some of the key factors that you get to lose when you actually don't have a good relationship and you have compromised the relationship there, which is also gonna impact the productivity because, like I said, you're gonna have some of the workers not turning up, and now you've got resources issues that is also impacted, and that means that some of the tasks are gonna be delayed, and some of them they're not gonna be done according to the quality standard. Establishing trust and reliability is very good, and this is some of the things that you can do to make sure that you've got clear communication and you pay as you agreed. You give feedback, and basically, my approach is that when the client is actually agreeing with the service provider to say we're going to pay on this certain date, I note these things down. And when the date is approaching, I remind the client, and I'll have the schedule that is actually showing how long this particular task is going to be and when is it likely that it's going to need to kick in the payment. And the continued collaboration, making sure that there's a bit of transparency in the relationship, because sometimes you get to find suppliers or contractors on the other side as well that tries to underschedule everything. So by doing so, that means that the job that they know that is going to take 3 weeks, they're going to say, no, in a week or two, I'll be done. And that for me doesn't work because I need to have a bit of an average to the optimum deal situation, and we come about the likely situation, highest likely situation whereby the particular task can be complete. And that helps a lot because now you get to work out with something that you know that it's precise. You can get to work with that. And some of the scheduling strategies that you can do to smoothen up the project completion, it's like what I just touched based now. It's a clear scope initially, timeline. There, it's my biggest set of criteria, and I put a lot of red flags around it. If I find that you are getting to be taken advantage of, somebody is actually giving unrealistic type of timelines, then I know that this is not a particular service provider that we are going to be working with as much as you still make a choice as a client. And we need to draw the payment schedules according to the phases that were given by the particular service provider in line with the schedule. And this is where a lot of times when I'm working with service providers, they get to think that I've got a lot of money because I make sure that my schedule aligns with my money's availability. And I'm not going to start a project without planning the funds, and the schedule. And this gives me an upper hand whereby now the festive is approaching. I have got the highest retention that I can even bet on to say, you know what, I can call the service provider that I've worked with before. They will actually prioritize my type of task or my type of a job that I need them for. Because they know that when they come and work with me, but the moment that they're saying that, okay, we're done, or we're going to be done tomorrow, I know that I will have the funds available for that. And that's because of the clear schedule and the clear estimation from their side as well. And I make sure that I exercise that part, and also creative communication. How far are you from completing the first one? Are we still on schedule? You said you're going to be done in 3 weeks. How likely is it that you're still going to make it in 3 weeks? Okay, we've seen some of the unforeseen circumstances. We're going to now take 4 weeks. Okay, now we notice that we're going to do it sooner than we estimated because now we've added resources. Then I can also make a judgment. Do I delay that in a week? Do I put the task on freeze mode for a week or so? If there's a resource lack, do I put them on hold to say, guys, now that you've raised the issue of cement that are short, and I'm going to need to take the money that I thought I would need to pay you guys to actually buy the cement. And that is why a lot of clients lose their contractors because they don't come out clear to say, you know what, I've used the money to pay cement. Now I need to wait for pay for the salary to actually patch that type of money, type of funds to actually make sure that I still pay you. And that gap impacts everything because now you actually push to get the resources, and now you didn't communicate that it has impacted your readiness to pay. By the time they're done, you don't have the money. Where did the money go? I paid the cement. In that situation, what I not commonly advise and what I commonly do is that I would rather, yes, I will have the cement available, or I will say, you know what, I've got this issue that I didn't anticipate. I'm gonna take about 5 days to delay paying for the cement availability. And I will communicate with them by the time they tell me that we are going to be short of cement. This is an example. And I tell them that, okay, then we're going to need to wait 5 days before we continue or before we get them. Then I know that I'm still in the timeline whereby by the time they're done, I can still manage to pay them on agreed completion of phase. So that's what I do, and I make sure that there's transparency about it. And on the commercial scale, I'll make an example now going into the festive season. A lot of manufacturing companies, there are those that in the mining sector and engineering sector, you find that they are mostly the most preferred ones in your space of operation, and you get to find that they are closing now on the 15th of December. Now you've got an issue that you are likely gonna run out of stock before they reopen. I'll make an example of the reagent suppliers. So what I will do now beforehand, I will have the communication with the suppliers, and I will make sure that I've got a rep within the company that is actually saving my site, and make sure that that relationship thrives. So when that relationship thrives is when by they're gonna remind me as well to say, you know what, we're gonna be closing on the 15th, and from the 1st of December, we've got a cap in terms of order. So we're gonna be actually catering only to the maximum of 6 tons per client so that we can have enough to give our clients. And I say, okay, you're telling me now I still have time. So what do? I order the 3 tons now that I don't actually need now. I order them now, and then I'll order again after those caps kicks in, and order another 6 tons. Then I know that I've got 3 tons that is available. So I know that by the time that they open, I can even last until the 25th of January before they actually run out. And by so doing, I now get to be covered. And by so doing, that results actually from, sorry about that, but that results out of the good communication, the good relationship. I know that I'm strict. I make sure that I emphasize my standard. I'm not in the relationship platform when it comes to that. And I make sure that they've got someone who's monitoring their progress. By so doing, when they're done, I know that they're done. And when they send me the invoice with the rep to say we're done, I know that indeed the job is done, it's verified. But what I also do, which is a very key point, when they work for me, they're the service provider and they're the contractor, and I hold them to the standards of my requirements. Strictly, when they leave site, I turn around and make them my client, like they're my own client. Then what I do internally is to make sure that that payment, that invoice has gone through all the stages timely, so, and make sure that the invoices are paid on time, because invoices have got an agreement to say we're gonna pay after this time. And I make sure that the admin or service processing that payment towards procurement has done that. And again, to follow up with the payment desk to say, is my client paid? Say, no, that's a contractor. Yes, they're my client now because they've given me service and I need to return the favor in terms of commitment. I need to show my quality now. They showed me the quality. I held them to the standard of my quality expectation in the product or the service standard that I wanted. And now it's my turn to actually make sure that I give in my type of quality or my type of standard, which is to make sure that they're paid on time, paid early, and according to the agreement. Nurturing that long-term partnership and contractorship, it's not really easy, but it's very rewarding. I've seen a lot of companies struggling to get a contractor to come on site, especially when it comes to the specialized skill set. You get to find the service provider picking up the call and say, you know what, how how am I supposed to assist you when I've got an outstanding bill, outstanding invoice that is not paid by your company since the last week I've done that? And you'll try and say, you know what, I'll make sure that this current bill is paid. And they say, you know what, I wish I can also help, but I've exhausted my resources and I don't want to go extra to actually dispatch my resources to the place whereby it's hard to get my money paid. How about you make sure that I get paid before I come out? And that time you've got a breakdown. You've got a breakdown. You need that type of a service provider to come out and assist. And when you look at it again, they're not in a luxury of accumulating the outstanding invoices. They need a cash flow in their business, and they need to also have that commitment from your side to say, you know what, we pay our service providers. And a lot of times you get to see this challenge when you're dealing with experienced service providers that give in quality work. They normally don't turn out to call outs or emergencies unless the last bill is paid as per the agreement. So you need to manage that. As much as you're not working the procurement, you need to make sure that you become the service provider for that contractor or that service provider the moment they leave internally, so that you can continue to have that relationship, which is again gonna make your running availability to be at optimum, because it's gonna impact that. If they don't turn up when you got a breakdown, then that means that you're going to have a lot of delays, which you don't want. So you need to demonstrate that reliability and to have that constant communication. I've actually benefited a lot in terms of managing the communication, because you even get uh, contractors coming out to even do the tests of certain improvements, or they say new started in the market, they can say, you know what, we're going to offer this type of equipment for you to try and utilize it for free. What we're going to need is just to share the data and to also come out and conduct the test together. And you get to benefit of the knowledge around that new technology that is coming. And you also get to have a discounted prices. And when you got intents in the organization, this is the time that you can give them the scope and say, you know what, conduct the data, work around this, and see how it goes. Then you benefit internally as an organization as much as now the client will benefit with the data. Yeah, sorry, the service provider will benefit with the data. By so doing, you actually again manage to get the benefits out of such deals, because you are having a good relationship with your service providers or contractors. What I'm gonna say in conclusion is that, be it is domestic, be it is commercial, don't get caught up into the corporate type of uh, a behavior, whereby now, because you've got a good relationship with the contractor, you let them slide with poor work, workmanship. Don't let that go on. If there's an issue, call in the person who's servicing your area or the contractor themselves, whoever that may be, who's responsible for that particular relationship. Call them in, give them the feedback, say, you know what, I'm not happy with one, two, three, let's rectify. Because you don't want to be compromising the business trying to maintain the relationship. You must maintain that they give you the best service as agreed, as you're paying for it, and also on the same time, you also make sure that they get paid on time and exactly the fees that you agreed upon. So this is going to help you a lot. In domestic scale, you can get away with actually looking like the person who's well funded in your projects, because you'll make sure that your schedule it's relating, and if there's issue, you are able to spot them through. So this is why now a lot of times people end up overpaying just to compensate for the downfalls and losing contractors here and there and losing the quality of the overall work. So I don't want you to be part of that anymore. If you've been a victim, I want this to end as you end this video, so that you can go back and actually do some implementation of this particular knowledge and make sure that your relationships are well managed going forward. So stay tuned for more and repost. Give me your feedback as to your experiences around this matter, and let's see how we can actually assist you going forward in managing your domestic skill project as much as um, in your operations in the commercial scale or in the project space. Thank you. Stay tuned.